There's a particular kind of tired that sleep doesn't touch. You stop for the day, you lie down, but the engine's still running. The body's horizontal, but hasn't actually come back. You know the feeling. Most of us spend a good part of our lives in some version of it. Moving, producing, scanning ahead. And we call the moments we're not doing that rest, even when nothing in us has really settled. This chapter is about the other thing, the real stop. And it makes a claim that sounds backwards the first time you hear it, that the place you're most afraid of, the full stop, the empty, the still, the place that looks from the outside like a kind of death. It's not where you go to shut down. It's where you come most alive. This podcast works through the 81 chapters of Daodejing one at a time, not as history, not as philosophy to understand and set aside, but as a practice manual for living. There's no belief required, no doctrine, just what can be noticed, sat with, and verified in your own experience. You don't need to have heard the earlier episodes. Just start here and Tao will meet you where you are. The podcast has a companion app now available on the App Store and Google Play. Meditation timer, journal, the podcast, foundational texts. Just search for Tao with Ian Feldman. I was working on a song this week called The Science of You. It started as just a feeling, but the more I sat with it, it really made clear that it was a pain to Tao. I didn't set out to write it that way, it just came out that way. Here's what I noticed while I was making it. I've been advancing my skills modestly as a player, and when you go looking online for how to get better, what you find most often is about speed, fretboard mastery, how fast you can move, how many notes you can fit. Look how quickly this famous player's hands move. There's nothing wrong with speed when the song calls for it, but underneath a lot of that content, there's something else running. A competitiveness, a kind of envy. Faster, cleaner, more. In this song, I went the other direction. Still using triads, inversions, moving the shapes around the neck. But when I got to the instrumental section, the part where a player would usually show you what he can do, I almost stopped playing. A couple of notes, let them ring out, then a couple more. And each time, the section got deeper. Each time the song came back to the root, the space around the notes got fuller, not emptier. Until it was time to move again. I wasn't trying to make a point. I was following what the song wanted. But when I listened back, the most alive part of the whole thing was the part where I almost wasn't playing. The part where the player almost wasn't there. This chapter, chapter 16, I call Returning to the Root. Reaching utmost emptiness, firmly holding stillness, 10,000 things arising at once, from which I see their returning. These things so profuse, each thing returning to its root. Returning to the root is called stillness. Stillness is called returning to life. Returning to life is called constancy. Knowing constancy is called clear seeing. Not knowing constancy, recklessness creates disaster. Knowing constancy is capacity. Capacity leads to impartiality. Impartiality leads to wholeness. Wholeness leads to heaven. Heaven leads to Tao. Tao leads to lasting. Lifelong, no danger. I'm going to set the orientation down and put the translator's hat on But this time I've got a different book open on the desk. Usually I read 16 with the Neye beside it, the old meditation manual. But today I want to read it beside Zhuangzi because Zhuangzi takes the same instructions and tells them as stories, and the stories change what the chapter is willing to say out loud. Let's start with the first two lines. Reach utmost emptiness, hold stillness. Zhuangzi has a name for the first one. He calls it the fasting of the heart-mind, Xinjai. There's a passage where he says, don't listen with your ears, don't even listen with your mind, listen with qi. And qi, he says, is empty and waits on things. It's to emptiness alone that Tao gathers. So reach utmost emptiness isn't going blank. It's emptying the room so a guest can finally arrive. You're not shutting the house down. You're clearing it out so something can come in. In the second line, hold stillness. Zhuangzi calls Zhuangzi, sitting and forgetting. There's a scene where a student keeps coming back to the teacher saying, I'm making progress. I've forgotten ritual. I've forgotten kindness and duty. And finally he says, I just sit and forget. What does that mean? He says, I let my limbs and body fall away. I dismiss my hearing and seeing. I leave form. I let go of knowing, and I become identical with the great thoroughfare. That's holding stillness in Zhuangzi's mouth. You forget your way down to the place where you're continuous with the whole open passage of things. Now, the worry this chapter always raises is that stillness is just deadness dressed up. And here's why I wanted Zhuangzi today, because he doesn't dodge that. He walks straight into it. His most famous still man sits with a body, he says, like withered wood, and a mind like dead ash. That's the look of it from outside, a dead tree. And it's not the failure, it's the doorway. Because from inside that withered wood stillness, the man says 4 words. I have lost me. Wu Sangguo. The small partial, grabbing self has dropped out. And what's left is the one who can finally see. Dead wood on the outside. The clearest seeing there is on the inside. The chapter says, stillness looks like dying. Zhuangzi says, yes, it does. Go in anyway. The seeing is on the other side of the look. And what does that one see? I watch their returning. And I want to slow down on that word, watch, because it carries more than it lets on. It's the same verb chapter 1 used when it said, watch the subtlety. It's the contemplative seeing word. And it's literally the word for a Taoist abbey, the place of watching. Doesn't mean analyze. The one who watches in that word doesn't take the arising apart, but lets it come, lets it go, and stays the one watching. If you've ever been asked in a quiet room just to notice what's happening in you instead of fixing it, you already know this word in your body, whether or not you've ever seen it written. And Zhuangzi gives that watcher a place to stand. He calls it the pivot of the way, Daoshu. The still axis that finds the center of the ring, and from there responds without end. So the abbey tells you what kind of watching it is. Letting come, letting go. The pivot tells you where the watcher stands, the still center, while the things revolve. He calls that turning wuha, transformation of things, this and that, up and down, rising, returning, the butterfly and the man, each dreaming the other. You don't stop the wheel, you find the center of it and watch it turn. Then comes the line the whole chapter pivots on. Stillness is returning to life. And this is where today's lens earns its place, because the word under life is Ming, and Ming is bigger than aliveness. It's the given, the decreed, the turning with everything the turning contains. When Zhuangzi's wife died, his friend came to mourn, found him sitting on the ground, drumming on a tub, singing. The friend was appalled. And Zhuangzi said, "Of course, at first I was shaken. I'm not made of stone." Then I looked back. Before she was born, no life. Before that, no form. Before that, not even breath. Out of the blur, breath. Breath became form. Form became life. And now it's changed again into death. And that, he said, is just spring, summer, autumn, winter, the 4 seasons going round. Returning to the root is returning to that, to the turning that has death in it as one more season. He stopped wailing. He said, because to keep wailing would mean he hadn't understood Ming. So hold that phrase, because the chapter's next line is exactly it. Not knowing the constant, blind action, disaster. Through Zhuangzi, the one who doesn't understand Ming, the one who grieves against the turn, who clutches the season he's standing in, who won't let the guest leave the room. That's the blind action. It isn't wickedness. It's a man wailing at winter for not being summer. And notice I'm not here going to leave tide for now. The constant, Zhuangzi knows, isn't some fixed thing sitting under all this change. For him, the constant is the turning. I'll come back and untie that from inside the practice. And then there's the ladder out, which reads cleanly as a Zhuangzi staircase. Room. That's the empty heart again, the one that waits on things. Impartiality. That's the pivot, where you stop taking this side against that side. And the rung, I translate as wholeness, the one most people render king. Zhuangzi hands me a better name for it. It's identical with the Great Thoroughfare. You don't climb toward a throne. You sit and forget until you're one with the great open passage of things. Heaven, Tao, lasting. And the top of the ladder, no danger to the end of your days, is Zhuangzi's most stubborn image, the useless tree. The gnarled tree no carpenter wants, so no axe ever touches it. So it stands out, its whole natural span. Everyone knows the use of the useful, he says. Nobody knows the use of the useless. The prize at the top of this ladder isn't power. It's the tree standing still. That's the chapter with Zhuangzi open beside it. Empty the room. Forget your way to the center. Watch the seasons turn. Death among them. Without grieving against the turn. I'm going to set the tools down now. Last chapter, we were standing in front of muddy water. The question was, who can be still enough to let it clear? Who can wait while the silt settles on its own without reaching in to fix it? This chapter steps forward in time. The water's settled now. It's clear. And the question becomes, what do you see once you can see? The first thing to say is the thing the body resists. When you finally stop, really stop, not flop on the couch with the phone, but actually come to rest, part of you might panic because stillness wears the face of death. We've been taught that the only off switch is numbing. go offline, disappear into a screen. So be still sounds like become a little dead. Something in us flinches away from it. I want to meet that flinch head on because this tradition does. There's that man in the old book who sits so still, his body looks like a dead tree, and his mind like cold ash. And that's not him failing at being alive. That's the most awake he will be all day. There are two kinds of stillness, and you can tell them apart in your own chest if you look. One is the engine finally off. The other is the engine pretending. Slack, dull, checked out. Withered wood is not the same as a dead battery. One has gone numb. The other has gone clear, settled and awake at the same time. And from that clear stillness, you get to do the one thing the chapter is really about. You watch. Something arises, a thought, a feeling, an itch to get up and do something. Instead of grabbing it and riding off on it, you watch it come, you watch it go back down. You're not out in the weather getting soaked. You're the still point at the center, and the weather turns around you. A thought is a season. It comes. It has its day. It passes. You stay the one watching. I thought a small version of this in the song from this week. In the instrumental where I almost stopped playing, the space didn't go dead. It filled up. And the truest part of it was the part where I almost wasn't there. Where the player who wants to show you something dropped out and the music got to arrive on its own. That's the whole move in miniature. The grabbing self steps back, and the thing comes truer for the room you left it. Now I want to take us to the heart of it, and it's tender, so stay with me. The chapter says stillness is returning to life, and the gentle reading stops there. The aliveness comes back. But there's a braver reading, and it's the one I trust. The word isn't just life, it's the whole given, the turning of things, start to finish. There's a story of the man whose wife has just died, and his friend finds him sitting on the ground, drumming on a tub and singing. It looks heartless. It isn't. He says, of course I was shaken, but I look back at the whole arc of her. No breath, then breath. No form, then form. Life and now death. And it came to me that this is just the seasons turning. Spring into summer, into autumn, into winter. She's lying down now in the great room of things. And if I chased after her sobbing, all I'd be saying is that I never understood how any of it works. That's what it means to return to the root. The root isn't a safe little center where nothing happens. The root is the turning itself. And the turning has every season in it, including the last one. To come back to the root is to come back to that and to stop fighting it. So now you can see the chapter's warning for what it is, and it's not a threat. Not knowing the constant, it says, reckless action, disaster. The reckless one isn't a bad person. The reckless one is the one who can't bear the turn, who clutches the season he's in and white knuckles it, who wails at winter for not being summer, who treats every ending as an injustice done to him personally. That's the life of pure arising with no return in it. All push, no coming back down. The engine that never gets to switch off. And the chapter says that makes life a disaster. That's right. But here it as a description, not a sentence. The disaster isn't a punishment that lands later. The disaster is the shape of the clutching itself. And here's the knot I left tied. What is this constant you come to know by returning? It's tempting to imagine some changeless thing hidden under all the change, still bedrock you finally reach. But chapter 1 is the very first thing this book said. I already warned you, the constant can't be named, can't be pinned. So it is a bedrock. It's not a thing you grab. The constant is the turning. The one reliable truth is that it all keeps moving, season into season, and you come to know it not by holding it still, but by becoming fluent in its motion. You don't grasp the constant. You stop fighting it. That's the whole difference between the one who's at peace and the one who's at war. Not what they know, but whether they've stopped bracing against the turn. And the latter at the end, capacity, impartiality, wholeness, all the way up. It isn't 6 rungs to climb. It's one thing opening. When there's room in you to hold what arises, you stop grabbing. When you stop grabbing, you stop taking sides. There's no private agenda bending the world toward you. And when nothing's being bent and nothing's being shoved away, nothing's split off. You're whole. You're one with the open passage of things. It's all the same motion. It's the space in the song that got fuller the less I played. And where does it land? Not on a mountaintop, not on power, not on bliss. The last line is, to the end of your days, no danger. That's the prize. The gnarled old tree that no one bothers to cut down, standing out its whole natural span because it stopped trying to be useful, stopped lurching, stopped making itself a hazard. You don't rise above your life. You just get to the end of it whole, having stopped being at war with the way it moves. So if you're carrying that engine still running feeling today, the kind sleep doesn't touch, there's nothing you have to do about it right now. You don't have to fix it. The silt settles on its own. That was last chapter's whole point. Still holds. But sometime soon, when there's a gap, and there's always a gap, even a small one, you can let yourself actually stop. Not numb out, not check out. Just stop and stay awake inside the stop. You can watch the next thought arise and watch it go back down and not go with it. You can let the space around you get full instead of empty. You can sit there like the old tree, useless and unhurried, and let the season you're in be the season you're in. And if some part of you flinches, if stopping still feels a little like dying, that's all right. That part doesn't know yet what's on the other side of it. It thinks the root is where the life ends. It's only the next season turning. "致虚极，守静笃，万物并作，无为管其父。父物芸芸，各复归其根。贵根曰静，静曰复命，复命曰长，知常曰明。不知常，妄作凶。知常容，容乃公，公乃全，全乃天，天乃道，道乃久。莫身不殆。